Good morning. Good morning. Happy Thursday. It is June 2nd, 2022. It's a beautiful day outside, and I hope wherever you are having a great day. My name is Carol White, and I want to welcome you to this week's episode of When Life Needs a Detox. I'm going to get started right away. I don't want to waste anybody's time. Our topic today is on the subject of tithing. What justifies me terminating my tithe? Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because as I was trying to go over everything that we've talked about with tithing, like we talked about what it is, why we do it, how to do it, and how you're going to tithe when you don't have any money. Well, there's something else that comes up with tithing: doubt. There are times when you doubt why you tithe. And I'm going to say this specifically. There are times when people want to terminate tithing. I'm going to say why I say this. Now, there was a gentleman some time ago. He's a non-tither. We worked together. And we got into a discussion about the fact that I tithe on my salary. He said, now, wait a minute. Hold on. I never tithe. I've never tithe. I'm not giving the church my money. I said, well, why? I'm not giving it to church. This is between me and God. He says, no. When you hand that money into the collection plate, that's going to the church. The tithe is for the church. And what happens when they misuse the money? You going to keep on giving them money when they misusing the money? That's why I don't tithe. And he went on and on and on. And I said, those are good questions. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, and you don't have an answer for me, do you? I said, actually, I do. It took me a long time to learn this, but I do have an answer. I said, you have to look at what tithing is. And you have to look at the concept and principles of tithing. Tithing, in its purest form, is an act of faith concerning your relationship to God. You are thanking God for the abundance that He has given you, and you are showing faith that if you are faithful to Him, He will continue to be faithful to you. That's tithing. Tithing is an act of faith between you and God. Now, do you give your tithe to the church? Absolutely. But tithing, in its purest form, in its purest sense, is between you and God. Yes, you gave your tithe to the church building. You put it over there. But New Testament says that each one of us is the church. So you individually have an understanding of what God is to you. And that is what you base your tithing upon. Now, when it comes to dealing with the church and tithing, that's where it gets difficult, because at that point, when you're focused on what the church does with the monies they collect, you have taken your focus off of what is important. concerning the tithe. Your focus for tithing should always be your relationship with God. That's your focus. The minute you start worrying about what the church has done with the money that you gave as a tithe because of your faith in God, you lose focus on what the tithe is about. So now you're more concerned about what the church is doing with the money that you gave them. And you gave the money as a show of your relational faith to God. You get to the point where you're missing the point, is basically what I'm trying to say. Now, I had to learn this. My mother taught me this because I had the same questions. And here's the thing, you're going to question why you tithe. You're going to question the concept of tithing. You would be remiss not to. It is your job as a Christian and as a person of faith to always ask the questions that plague you. No one said you wouldn't have questions. No one said that you wouldn't have doubts. But you've got to ask the questions so that you can get the information, so that you can alleviate your doubts and your fears. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you don't get your answers at your particular church home, that doesn't stop you from finding the answers. I mean, when I was growing up, now I was born in 64. So now I grew up without a computer. So your line of, let's say your access to information, which is what I'm trying to say, your access to information was limited. You have access to the World Wide Web. You can find any information you want now. You're not limited to just what your pastor tells you. You can go online and ask your questions because you're not the only one that has had these questions. But let me come back. In order to successfully tithe, you have got to keep your focus on why you tithe. If you get to the point where you're worrying about what the church does with your money, you're not going to be able to maintain that focus. It's a distraction. You see, my mother taught me, and I'm going to get back to this. My mother taught me, and I went to her with these questions because she was the most learned person that I knew, that I had access to, that didn't mind me asking the questions. And she told me something that I'll never forget. She said, baby, the one thing you have to understand is that the act of tithe is faith. You have to give to God. Once you give your tithe, it's no longer yours. You gave your tithe to the storehouse. Once you give your tithe, you have to, based on your faith, believe that those who are now the caretakers of the tithe will do what they are supposed to do. It's all an act of faith. And I looked at her. I said, but she said, once it leaves your hands, once you put faith in God to place it into the hands of that caretaker, you have got to put your faith in God and faith that the caretaker is going to do God's work. But it's not your job to make sure that the caretaker does that. She says, if you did your job by having faith and giving your tithe, that's between you and God. What that caretaker does with the tithe that you have given to the church is between that caretaker and God. If you handled your part, let the caretaker handle theirs. And as hard as that is, it's actually the honest truth. Once it leaves your hands, it's not yours to worry about anymore. That's faith. You gave it. Your expectation is that they do the right thing. Your faith concept is that they will do the right thing. Now, can you terminate your tithe? Well, of course you can. Listen. Anything you can do, most times you can undo. But if you're going to terminate your tithe because some man or woman in the pulpit isn't doing what you think they ought to be doing, you are tithing for the right reasons. Your tithe is an act of faith between you and God, not you and the church. We tend to lose focus when it comes to the tithe. We give to the church. I'm going to give to the church. No, I'm giving to God via the church. My tithe is between me and God, not me and the church. The church has bills to take care of. They light, gas, phone, salaries, maintenance of the building, the whole 9 yards. The same bills that you have to take care of your home, the church has to take care of the church home. But here's the thing, the church gives an accounting of everything that they do. At least I believe that they do. Now, my church, and I'll just give the name, shameless plug, Covenant United Church in Christ in South Holland, Illinois. They have an open quarterly meeting. They go over church business in this meeting. Now, do they give a detailed description of, all the bills and all the utilities, scripture and verse? No. But any church business that needs to be discussed, they will openly discuss it there. And if you want to know what's going on with your money, they do have to make an accounting. Every church has to make an accounting of the monies that they take in, which is why every January, just like if you get your W-2, you get a contribution statement from your church, because they have to keep track of the money that's brought in. And specifically now, if you just put your money in the collection plate, that's monies that they've collected. If you write by check or you use your giving number, like my church, every member has a giving number. Well, they have to give those people contribution statements. So you do have an accounting. So you can never say the church doesn't ever tell me what goes on with the money. Yeah, they do. They tell you how much you put in. If you go to the quarterly meeting, they'll tell you all the church business that's going on. They'll give you updates on fundraisers. So it's not like you don't know, because they provide a forum for you to know. So can you terminate tithing? Absolutely. Yes, you can. But please understand that that is a choice that you make based on your relationship with God. Do not base your termination of tithe on your relationship with the church, because then you're not justified. In my opinion, you would not be justified, because that particular church, even if they are misusing your funds, that's not the only church. It takes a while to find a church home where you are comfortable, where you feel safe, and where you are building a relationship of trust. That takes time. So, can you terminate? Yes. Should you terminate? I say no, because you can't just, I mean, it's kind of like being an unnecessary flirt. You know what I mean. You're over here, and you have your little relationship over here, but then you see something a little bit better, so you go over there, and then you see something a little better, and then you go over there. No, you can't build a relationship with anyone without staying there and going through the good, the bad, the ugly, and good God, what is that over in the corner? It's the same thing building a relationship with God. You're going to have to go through it. You're going to go through good. You're going to go through bad. You're going to go through ugly. But you've got to build that relationship with God in order to be able to trust enough to tithe. Terminating tithe shows the level of trust that you have in God. And don't worry about the church. You are the church. You are the church. That church building is just that. It's a building. You are the church. You have a relationship with God. And that's all there is to say about that. You all, I want to thank you so much for showing up and letting me be a part of your Thursday mornings. I do have an announcement. I'm going to be going on yet another hiatus. My symptomology for my MS has now gone completely haywire. And I am tired. I am fatigued. And I have not been sleeping. Insomnia is a very real symptom of MS. But when you're not sleeping, everything else seems exaggerated. And it actually is exaggerated because I'm not getting my signals the way I should. I mean, I get janky signals, but it's getting bad now. So I need to take some time to get myself better so that I can give you my best. I want to thank you all for always being here. I want to thank you for your love, your care, and your support. It means more than I can express, and it means more than you will ever know. I'll be gone for a little while, but I will be back. In the meantime, I love you to the moon and back, and we will see each other soon. This has been When life needs a detox. I'm Carol White. We'll see each other again. Bye-bye now.